All right, let's get to this bombshell report. Just the News breaks this as you guys, I mean, seriously, if you want to know what's going on, we now know where to be looking and refreshing all the time. Democrat whistleblower told FBI that Schiff okayed leaking classified intel to hurt Trump. That was the headline in Just the News. Yeah. A big exclusive for you guys. Frankly, I'm blown away. First of all, I can't help but comment on the media. You guys keep hitting it out of the park. Exclusive, 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 exclusive. Yeah. And yet it's like ignore, ignore, ignore. But walk us through what this Democrat whistleblower told the FBI, what the intel was, and how it's tied to Schiff.
So let's just identify who he is first so you can get a sense of his motivation. He is a lifelong career intelligence officer who eventually gets assigned to the House Democratic minority staff on the Intelligence Committee. So it's one of the most prestigious assignments an intelligence officer can get. You get sent to Congress to the premier oversight agency. He's there 12 years working for Democrats. He is very well liked. He doesn't have any problems with the Democrats until Adam Schiff takes over as the ranking member. And at that moment, he claims he attends a meeting in early 2017 where Adam Schiff, in front of other staff, states that he's authorizing the release of classified information to dirty up Donald Trump, to build public pressure, a narrative that Donald Trump maybe should be indicted, or that we should have a Watergate or 9/11 style commission that maybe Adam Schiff could serve on. The motive is identified, the date is identified, the early leak of what's going to come out is identified, and if the FBI does some basic work the first time they interview him. All right. This meeting occurred here. Can we find proof of it? Yeah, there's a meeting that day. Wait a second. 2 days later, Adam Schiff weighs in with a tweet on exactly what they were talking about in the meeting. Some credibility to this. By the way, he's a lifelong career guy. He's a Democrat. He's not a partisan. He tells him the only reason I came for it, I'm a Democrat. I'm a career guy. But what I witnessed in that room was illegal, unethical, and potentially treasonous. Those are the three words he uses to describe members of his own party on his own staff where he's worked successfully without incident for 12 years. That's what we see. And then over 4 years, he continues to repeat that information. And one of the things he states is that he's told early on, don't worry, if you're asked to leak, it's okay because you're never going to get prosecuted because the Justice Department's going to say, we don't want to mess with the issue of debate and speech clause, the constitutional separation of powers. Now, I am unaware and I've been unable to find anyone in the Justice Department who claims there's a legal opinion saying if you're a member of Congress and you get executive branch classified information from CIA, FBI, NSA, you're immune if you try to leak. I can't find any. So there doesn't appear to be any legal ruling to that effect. But son of a gun, just like the whistleblower says, at some point, the FBI goes to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department tells the FBI, you know what? We don't want to mess with that debate and speech clause. Exactly what Adam Schiff predicted the Justice Department would do. The whistleblower seems to have some credibility. He's not hearsay. He's a first-hand witness to a meeting that the FBI was able to corroborate the date of the meeting. They were able to corroborate that Adam Schiff did something publicly that matches what was talked about at the meeting. So it had a lot of credence, but it really ended up going nowhere.
It's interesting you say that because as you were talking, I've been around classified information for over 25 years, and you have to have a source of classification that can classify things and then unclassify them. And I was thinking about it, scratching my head as you were talking. Like, I've never heard of any member of Congress having classification authority. So beyond this, Adam Schiff, in theory, is asking someone to break the law because the speech and debate clause, I would assume, applies to members of Congress. Even if you stretched it to classified information, you couldn't argue. I mean, by the way, there is a bit of irony. They go after Donald Trump for boxes of information that the president clearly has the ability to classify and declassify. But Adam Schiff, this would be a complete and utter violation as a member of Congress. And he's arguing to do this. So let's kind of just unpack this for a second. Where does this go from here? Like, is this just hearsay? Is it a whistleblower? Is the Department of Justice acting on it? Is there an active investigation?
We don't know if there's an active investigation. We do know that there is one provision of the statutes that allows for the statute of limitations to go to 10 years, which would take the expiration of potential criminal exposure to 2027, because the allegations in the meeting occur in early 17. That is if someone did it knowingly and willfully. When you look at what the man describes, He's clearly instructing his staff to do this, and there's also an explanation about why, even though you think this is illegal, you're not going to get caught. That sounds pretty knowing and willful if his account is accurate. There is some corroboration, but when the FBI went to interview other staffers who allegedly attended that meeting and were involved in the leaking, each staffer gave the same answer Adam Schiff allegedly gave his staff in the meeting, which is, we're not cooperating. We have speech and debate clause protections, and the Trump Justice Department didn't try to push, and Trump didn't try to push the limit and contend that. And so it gets swept under the rug. It's going to get looked at. All these new documents that are coming out are going to be part of that strike force. Where it goes from here, I don't know. But there's an interesting decision that faces John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader now. He's the leader of the Senate. This allegation is now sitting out there. It's for everybody to read. It's very specific. It's never fully contested. And John Thune, members of Congress don't get a security clearance. They get access to classified information by virtue of their job, but it's under an arrangement from the executive branch. And I think one of the questions I asked Jim Jordan, I've asked Tulsi Gabbard, I've asked the president's team at the White House, and we're trying to get a hold of Thune is, given this, until you resolve whether this is true or not, there is a pretty serious allegation that a member of Congress doesn't care about classification he may leak. Do you suspend Adam Schiff's access to intelligence until you resolve whether this is a question? This happened in 2017 and 18 when Adam Schiff temporarily got Devin Nunes disqualified as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee for allegations that turned out to be bogus. But Devin Nunes steps aside. Democrats ask for it. It happens. Does that now come back around, and is it that standard applied to Adam Schiff? Is he temporarily suspended from any intelligence briefings until they determine whether these allegations are true? It's a great question for John Thune. We're trying to run it down.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying this conversation, but if you're looking for a way to get to sleep tonight and stay asleep, I've got the answer for you. For over a year, I've been taking Beam's Dream Powder. It has made a world of difference. I fall asleep faster, I stay asleep, and I wake up ready to go. If you want to join me by taking one scoop every night before you get to bed, go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code word Spicer at checkout for up to 40% off. Trust me, everything stems from a great night's sleep. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. All right, back to the conversation. And don't fall asleep yet. John, I said this a moment ago, and you guys break all this news, just the news. But when an allegation of this level comes out, again, it's not a bogus source. It's a Democrat on the committee. That's not some random partisan or a pundit, secondhand hearsay, as you know. It's a firsthand source. Yep. Is there anyone aside from just the news that's picking this up and covering it?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's lots of people have covered it. Millions of people have probably read the story just by virtue of the number of views we got on our site. But I've seen lots of other people cover it over the last few days.
But did anyone in legacy media? I didn't see the Washington Post.
Some did. Yeah, no, not the Washington Post or New York Times yet. No, but they'll get to it a few days from now with their own spin. I'm sure they've covered a lot of the things that we've broken in the last couple of months. Several days later, but at the end of the day, here's one of the great things about the moment we live in. Why your show is so meaningful, what I try to do at Just the News is so meaningful. We are no longer hostage to the gatekeepers of the legacy media. They have yielded so much trust from the American people because of the way they've conducted themselves the last 10 years that you don't need them to validate or to confirm or spread a truthful story around. We have just as much reach, we have just as much power. And when people say, I don't believe you, John Solomon, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to tell you, how did this happen? I wrote 4 years consistently while being smeared by my own profession and by Joe Biden's henchmen that Hunter Biden had a corruption problem and the laptop was real. In 2022, before the IRS whistleblowers came through, 77% of Americans said they believe that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden had done something wrong. Now, they didn't get that from the New York Times, CNN, CBS, NBC, ABC, all. They got that because people are now consuming news in places like your great show and what we do at Just the News. So I don't even care. And after watching what the traditional media did to me, they didn't often seek fair comment from me. When my story turned out to be true and they had sullied me, they never came back and said, John Solomon was right. I don't need the legacy media. I don't read them very often because I don't find them quite compelling anymore. But neither do rest of Americans. And I think the great news is we're no longer hostage to their gatekeeping capabilities.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting, though, on this story, there is now, you also wrote a follow-up story that says FBI Director Kash Patel released bombshell documents to Congress showing how agents traced classified leaks to sources, but DOJ didn't act.
Yeah. So this goes back, now this isn't the current DOJ, this is the old DOJ. Right. But this is an extraordinary story. We've always known for at least 4 or 5 years now, 4 years, maybe a little bit longer, that Daniel Richman, a Columbia law professor, was brought in by James Comey and admitted that he gave some of Comey's emails or relayed information from some of Comey's emails with the president to the media to try in these leaks right after Comey was fired. What we didn't know was what Richmond believed his job was. Why was he put on the taxpayers' payroll as a special government employee beginning in 2015? We get that for the first time in these memos, which reveal that Richmond told the FBI, under direct questioning from agents, he was brought in to burnish James Comey's image. He believed that Comey had been hammered in the media after the Hillary Clinton email scandal, and his job was to make him look good. He had a relationship with Michael Schmidt at the New York Times, and he leveraged that relationship with Michael Schmidt to burnish James Comey's reputation and to, quote, set a narrative or something, I don't know if it's a direct quote, but his goal was to set future narratives, i.e. the Russia collusion narrative. And in the course of learning that, the FBI realized he attended a meeting with Comey where highly classified information was shared with Daniel Richmond because he's on the taxpayers' payroll. I think it's a good question for all of us to ask, why did the taxpayers pay for someone so that James Comey could have a PR representative burning his image? I think that's a good question.
Is this PR person, though, the FBI, like is he FBI media relations or is he outside counsel, like an outside PR guy?
He's an outside advisor, and he specifically said, I worked around the FBI's official press office. He went around
so the taxpayers are paying for like a PR consultant. Right. And just to be clear, to your point.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, he's also a lawyer, but yeah.
Well, wait. Yeah. But the FBI has a media relations department that you could direct your team to. I mean, that's what, I mean, I've been a PR flack for years on the government dime. Like that's part of your job, wink, nod, is to say, my boss is great. This is them saying, no, we're not going to use the FBI's own media relations team. We're going to hire this outside dude to be a consultant just to focus on making
I want to remind people what that FBI press office often did. It was run by a guy named Mike Corton, who I think really viewed the public as his client, not the FBI director as his client. And back in October of 2016, when the New York Times and I were asking questions about Russia collusion, the FBI told the New York Times and me in 2016 that there was no there on Russia collusion, that it hadn't really checked out. That kind of undercut the whole James Comey, Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok narrative, the John Brennan narrative. So it appears that Comey went outside to get someone who might spin a different narrative, and Richmond does help spin that narrative. And at some point, they realize he attends a meeting, he gets highly classified information, and then he talks to a reporter who then eventually reports some of that information that is highly classified. And of course, the FBI had a pretty good reason to suspect maybe that's the leaker. So they bring him in and they interview him. And the news in this document, we've always known that Richmond leaked the memos. We didn't know that he was interrogated over classified information specifically until these documents came out. But he's asked, did you leak classified information? And his answer is going to fall up there probably with Bill Clinton's famous Monica Lewinsky answer in the grand jury, which is, it depends what the meaning of is. He was parsing words. It's probably the greatest non-denial in a long time. Well, this guy may be up there with it because he says, I'm pretty sure I didn't confirm the classified information, and I'm almost sure with a discount that I didn't leak the document. Just think about it. He needed a discount on his answer in order to say that. That is a shocking answer. And of course, the FBI doesn't seem to follow. What do you mean a discount? Are you telling us the truth or you're not? We can't find evidence he was brought before the grand jury. Maybe he did, but we don't see it. So it's left at that. But we now know that we paid for a guy to burnish James Comey's interview. He's in contact with a reporter who did get classified information. Now, he does admit he was discussing the classified information with this reporter because the reporter seemed to know it. He's trying to say, well, I don't think I confirmed it, and I don't think I gave it to him with a discount. That's the sort of people that were helping set the narrative on Russia collusion, just like Adam Schiff, just like this guy. I believe there are 2 other names in the documents I made public yesterday that are redacted with really explosive information. They're other lieutenants of James Comey. I'm working with the Justice Department, the Bondi Justice Department, to maybe get those redactions lifted, because I don't think that Richie was acting in isolation. Richmond was acting in isolation, so I'd like to see if we can get those redactions lifted, see if my suspicions are correct. But when you ask, how did America get lured into thinking its president was a Russian stooge when there was zero evidence of it? It's because of these strategic leaks from people like Adam Schiff, James Richmond, maybe these 2 other FBI folks, other people we now know are out there peddling these stories. We went through 3 years of turmoil on a fake scandal. Now we're beginning to understand who were the people that set that narrative, and 2, who were the co-conspirators in the news media who later gave themselves Pulitzer Prizes and have walked around keeping those prizes even though the whole scandal's been turned out to be bogus. We now see who the bridges were between the media who fell for it and the perpetrators who gave it to them. And I think it's important for the New York Times to take note of the story I wrote this morning, because when he's facing an FBI agent and the possibility of being charged with lying if he doesn't tell the truth, James Richmond tells the FBI, my goal was to use the New York Times to fix James Comey's reputation and to set a narrative, i.e. Russia collusion. The New York Times got an award for working with people like this who now admit their goal was to create a narrative and do some PR work for James Comey. I'm not sure that's the best outcome of great journalism.
So do you think they were complicit or just stooges?
Who knows? I don't know. Right? Listen, here's what I would say. People said, John, why did you never fall for the Russia collusion thing, and how did you unravel it? And I'd like to suggest I'm some rocket scientist, but I'm really not. In 2016, I went to the FBI press office and said, hey, is there anything to this? And they looked me in the eye, just like they looked the New York Times in the eye in 2016 and said, there's nothing there. It's just not checking out. We're looking at it. It's not checking out. So if the New York Times knows that then, right? If it knows that then, how does it in February, March, and April write all these stories that are contrary to what they've been told by the career people? And why are they now dealing with people who are the outsiders, i.e. Richmond, and not the career press people who are trained to tell American people the truth? You have to ask yourself, why did they make that flip? Why did they go down that path? And then there's a moment, and I think this is the most important journalism failure that has never been corrected. In February of 2017, the Pulitzer-winning New York Times wrote a story. Now, thankfully, they didn't submit this particular story to the Pulitzer board, but it's in the middle of their award-winning pat-on-the-back journalism that they gave themselves, saying that Donald Trump, the U.S. intelligence has evidence that Donald Trump was conspiring with members of Russian intelligence to hijack the 2016 election. You can go back and look at this. It's mid-February. It's like February 13, 14, 16, 17, some of that middle week of February 2017. This story, you probably remember, hampered the White House. It gave great credence to a story that people up to that point had been a little dubious about. That story was never true. It never was true. In fact, even James Comey calls it hogwash when he testifies after he's fired as an FBI director. Think about that. The FBI, that story to this day has never been retracted. It has never been withdrawn. It hasn't been corrected. Yeah, they wrote the follow-up denials, but that that story stands in the annals of the New York Times uncorrected. And that's the newspaper that keeps telling us it deserves Pulitzer Prizes for its coverage.
You break all this stuff in Just the News all the time. But it makes me think, wasn't this the job of John Durham to get out the truth of what happened? In your opinion, based on all the stuff that look, and I say this respectfully, because you've got amazing sources and you get proven right over and over again through your reporting. But John Durham has the power of the government. Why couldn't he get what you get?
Well, he did get a lot of it. Listen, we had to go get the classified annex, but that's John Durham's work. That bombshell that Tulsi and Ratcliffe and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi gave us a couple weeks ago, that was sealed because it had so much classified information in it. And President Trump, in an interview with me, agreed to unseal it, and 5 days later he did. But he did have most of the Holy Grail stuff. The frustration is he tried to bring 2 charges. He got shut down. And once, if you couldn't get Sussman and Danchenko convicted, the chances of you getting John Brennan and Comey or someone else, almost zero. And so at some point he read the tea leaves, which is the jury pool I was dealt with is not going to allow me to secure any more convictions. So I'll write the best report I can. But his report, it isn't well written. It's a really crappy narrative report. But if you know what to pick out of it, he found almost all the good stuff. He does allude to the leaks. He does allude to so many other things. I wish he was a better writer because people might have picked up more in 23 when the report comes out. But he found a lot. History will look back and say he got a good majority of the facts out. I think the history will say Bill Barr, as the Attorney General, may have really let the American public down. What if the American public knew the 2 things that Bill Barr knew in the summer of 2020? That there's a criminal investigation of Hunter Biden for things that we were just told were fake, and there is a reason to indict Obama-era Democrats for what they did during Russia collusion. If he had just said that and maybe acted in the summer of 2020, I think history would be changed in a very different way, and we might not have had the 2020 election debate we ended up having.
2 more quick things. There's an interview that you did that I thought was fascinating where you highlight this interview that Obama does on NPR where he gets ahead of the intelligence.
It's my favorite story.
I was blown away. Just for the audience who hasn't seen this, we'll play the B-roll for everyone. But Obama does an interview with NPR, and walk us through what happens.
So he basically lets the cat out of the bag that he already knows that the intelligence committee is going to conclude that Vladimir Putin helped Donald Trump win the election. Now that's remarkable because it's December 18th is the date of the interview, 2016. The new intelligence committee session has just begun. There's no work done on it. They're just getting started. The debates are going to be in late December. He already knows the conclusion. And what's even more amazing is just 3 weeks before that, the intelligence community told Congress, no, Putin didn't help either candidate. In fact, he pulled out of the election in October, which surprised the intelligence community. So there's the official finding of the intelligence committee is still there was no thing. There's a concocted one being written. He already knows the outcome. Now, what makes it more amazing, not only does he tip his hand that the fix was in, he realizes he tipped his hand because he leaves the room, ends the interview. He comes back in and tries to say, hey, what I said about that whole Russia collusion thing, it's still ongoing. He has to try to eat his words because somebody on his staff realized, Mr. President, you let the cat out of the bag. And I think that's really an extraordinary part of this.
Maybe that's where I should get my Powerball numbers. Last thing I want to ask you is J.D. Vance does an interview the other day, and he says, if basically that old that line that we always say, if you don't look at history, you're doomed to repeat it. The question I have is, is anyone going to be held accountable, and what are we doing to ensure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I think the pressure on all of those things rests with 2 people. Pam Bondi in the Justice Department. Can she navigate this and be more successful than the John Durhams and the Muellers and others who looked at this previously? And then 2, can the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, invent the intelligence community to return it to its core mission of intelligence without politics. And that's going to mean a massive cut down, a massive rebuilding. It's going to be a painful process. But right now, the culture in the intelligence community and the law enforcement community is still, there's no consequence. So we'll play politics when it suits us. They have to change that culture. They have to go back. The deterrence of prosecution will do some of that on Pam Bondi, but there's a cultural and structural change that has to be made. I think you're going to see Tulsi Gabbard announce a major reorganization of the ODNI in the next few weeks. It's going to be historic, and hopefully that sets us on a course of an apolitical intelligence committee like we used to have, and then Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Kash is getting all the evidence out there. Let's see if Pam Bondi can get a prosecution team that can deliver some form of accountability. I think that's where the answer lies.
All right, a lot of news here today on Hillary Clinton, on Pam Bondi. John Solomon, thanks for always making news with us. Keep up the great work there at Just the News.
Love your show. Thanks. Thanks, Sean.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.